Recording.
Okay, is my face shining right now?
No, you're good.
Okay, I just got out the shower.
You're
All
good.
right.
You're good.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool, 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 cool,
So you
cool.
can start whenever you're ready.
All right, so my name is Kpakpo. I am a creative from Boston, Massachusetts. I work with photography, video, and music.
Dope.
Yeah.
So we like to start our interview with the first question. Are you hood grown? And if so, how does that influence your aesthetic?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I would say I'm hood grown. Actually, recently, they coined me with this term of like a thug nerd.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty
Blurred.
hood grown. It's like I moved around growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and I lived in a lot of different places, some better than others. And but even so, I never really let too much of my environment dictate like what I was about. Is more about what I was into and like the influences that I was picking up, whether it was people or just like things that I liked online, and just everything. I just really gravitated towards finding out more about my culture any way that I could.
Mm.
And yeah, it just made me who I am.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, from lots of like just snooping through your Instagram, this is how I get most of my information.
Yeah, I was a little impressed. I was
like, how do you know that I did that? Yeah. So we noticed that
it's like a Nardwuar interview kind of.
We noticed you have some background in a science career. So you transitioned from pharmaceuticals, if I'm right. You were at the pharmacy school, and now you're obviously in a more creative career. What did you find most difficult in making that decision and making that transition?
So I think the biggest thing that I learned from the transition was how do you navigate a creative space without that without what makes it like a sure fact as opposed to healthcare. Like when you're in healthcare, you know, okay, I'm going to school, I'm graduating, these are my career options, and this is what I'm going to tackle. And it's almost laid out for you to an extent. As opposed to the creative sector, a lot of things go off chance, timing, who do you know, what opportunities arise. You can have an ideal, a goal that you want to reach, and you can work towards that, but then sometimes things are out of your hand. And so I think that was the hardest transition, was how do I go from something that is a little bit more concrete and laid out to something that's a little bit more ambiguous. But yeah, I mean, I think I figured it out to an extent. I was doing both of them while I was in school. Like I was going to school and then I would take a lot of photos and do shoots. And it wasn't until I graduated that the opportunity arose, and I kind of switched gears just because my initial interest, my initial healthcare route didn't pan out. I still will work in healthcare, but at a later time.
Yeah, especially the time during these times. I mean, it's kind of good that you're not.
My dad's like, see, this is why you shouldn't be doing. And I'm like, yo, look, it's not, yo. Yeah, so yeah, for sure.
Cool. So what got you into photography? So again, noticing from your Instagram feed, it seems like you started shooting spaces and objects, and then you kind of moved into more portraits. Do you approach portraits differently than your other shoots, and how did you really develop your skill?
Yo, that's so crazy. You were very observant, and I love that. I started out taking photos of everything, and you know, I realized this element of surprise, just like the dynamic range that you have when you're shooting people, because the building is always going to stay the same. But I did shoot a lot of places, and I think that the transition, it's like when I started to shoot people, I realized the emotion that you tried to capture and like the relationship that you have, where, all right, I have a person, how can I make them comfortable? How can I be comfortable? How can I lead them? How does their outfit play off of the background? Like, what's the relationship there? And so it was just more of a challenge that I gravitated towards. And but even so, just having that focus on spaces and composition, I think I use it to complement the portrait now. So the space is not the focus, like the people is the focus because there's a lot more that I get out of it. But they still kind of sit hand in hand. Like I get sometimes I get really anal, like I can't have a car that's in the background. I can't have, a branch that's in the background because it takes from the narrative. It's like you watch a movie and it's a well composed movie and everything is placed strategically.
Right.
You play a video game and there was a designer that had to draw every artifact that's there, and it's intentional. And so like that's kind of like the same intent that I bring to the photo. It's like the person and how they fit in the space, but how does the space complement them without any distractions? So that's kind of how I go about that. Yeah, I had my first show back in 2016 at Pavement Coffee House, and a portion of it was dedicated to this little like series that I had compiled over time. It was called Spaces and Faces. No, Places and Faces. After that, like European streetwear brand that's out there, and yeah, it was just like a place and a person, separate photos, no relation, but there was like a color element or like a composition element that related. And so it was like 5 different chapters, or 5 different parts where it was like the place and the face that were completely different, but they spoke kind of the same language. And so I've always been interested in that, that relationship.
Oh, I feel like it's very clear in your photo. So I think you're doing a successful job of that. So also looking at all your Instagram, I've noticed you're a bit of a model yourself. And do you find it easier to connect with your subjects being a model? And like, how is it directing multiple models in a studio or an outdoor space? Because like when I do my little bit of modeling in the past, like it's like the photographer has to direct me and tell me what to do. I can only imagine how much more difficult it would be if there are like 4 or 5 people, because you have done shoots with like a group.
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny, actually, when I started college, I wanted to model and I was like, yo, that's the whole thing. And there'd be like school shoots or school fashion shows, and I'd be, but then it wasn't really a thing. And then I just gravitated towards shooting through Tumblr and et cetera, et cetera. And how would I say that? I would say that when I try to model now, I approach it as like, well, what would I want the person to do? And so I think that like shooting helps me with modeling, but modeling never really helped me with shooting. I think that just like developing, because I moved around a lot. I don't know if I said that. I moved around a lot growing up. So I think making friends was somewhat easy. I was just always a new kid, and I like loved the attention growing up kind of to
Oh,
it.
you're one of those. That's like so opposite. I feel like most people that move around a lot, they're like, I hate being the new kid all the time. But
that's it. Well, that's the thing, right? It's like I was living in a lot of different places, and I hated it at first, but like I was also like different because then I would move to more areas where there was a lot of white people. And so I think in retrospect, it was kind of like a wow factor, like who is this kid? But I was still like, I still was shopping at like Hip Zeppy and Mattapan, and like my clothes were like 3 sizes too big, but I was still doing my work, and then I was playing sports. So I just, like I said, I was always really focused on like my environment didn't really dictate who I was, but like me being who I wanted to be. So I think maybe there's probably like what's this person about? Whatever. But like, yeah, I liked that. So it was easy for me to make friends. And so when I meet models, like I said, I was shooting while I was in school. So that was a lot of the bulk of my practice, where I would get a model, maybe we're FaceTiming, what's the outfit, what's the location, and then we pull up. So I think repetition, and then realizing that like I can't get what I want from someone unless I tell them. So I have to take that lead. And I have to find a way to make them feel comfortable so that they can believe in what we're trying to do.
Mm.
And I always like to tell people, like, I want you to become uncomfortable. And it's kind of like reverse psychology, because it's like if they're expecting to be like this perfect specimen, maybe they never modeled, and it's just like oh like whatever they might think of me, then I might create this like false sense of what's going on. But if I can tell you, like, I want you to mess up, or like it's not even that serious, or I want it to look like you're posing, but I don't want you to pose. And then you try to think about, like, okay, like, what does that mean? And then I like guide you there. We can make that happen.
Dope.
So yeah, I think communication, honestly, sometimes I'm not the best at communicating like in my regular day life. I think like it's because I communicate so much in the shoot. It's like I leave and I don't even know what to, I'm just like, but yeah, I think that like communicating and telling people what I want and finding out a way to bring that out of them has always just been fun. A lot of the shoots that I've done with multiple people, like the first one that comes to mind was like, you know, for the Bodega Fall Winter 2018, and that was in California. And we had Joyce Rice, you know, she's awesome. We had the twins, you know, we had a whole bunch of people. And even the twins, I had met them on Tumblr like years prior. And it wasn't until then, meeting them like years later. So for them, it was kind of like a little bit of a established relationship. Then like 3 out of the 4 models, they already are friends with each other. And so that element really helped. But yeah, I think sometimes like trying to do background research on people and figuring out what they are about, if I don't already know them, like if there's not already something established, that really helps as well. Just like trying to communicate as best as I can.
So I'm going to jump around in the questions a little bit and skip a few, but you'll see it. You see it all. So like you just mentioned, you photograph for Bodega.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the staple streetwear in Boston in some regard. How did you develop that relationship, and do you have like complete creative control over these shoots, or do you work with a team? How does these shoots happen?
Magic. So it's a little bit of both. I have a friend who works there. His name's Ricky, and I was friends with him before I got there. And I remember when he started, and we would just talk about what that was like for him. And then my last year of school, when I was doing my clinical rotations, an internship opened up. I hit them up, couldn't do the hours because I was 9 to 5. I don't really know what I was thinking, but I was like 9 to 5, and they wanted someone to come in like 10 to 6. And I was like, yo, I could come in after. And like, no, that doesn't, no, no one's trying to work at 6 o'clock. It's all good though. So I couldn't do it. I interviewed, couldn't do it. Then the following year I graduated, and they were looking for interns as well. And I just hit them up, and then I came in, had an interview. That summer there was like 5 or 6 or 7 interns. And so there was a lot of competition. But I think that everyone in the end had something different that they wanted to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a meeting point, and then people were like, okay, like I don't think I really want to do this, so I think this might be better for me. And then in the meantime, I was just like, well, before people leave, I gotta make them understand why they need to have me.
Right.
Why they can't
Prove
just let
yourself.
me go. You know what I'm saying? It's like if there's all these people in the room, how are you gonna make yourself stand out? And then it really just graduated from being there as a photo intern to, what did we have to do? We had to edit photos for white. So if you go on the e-commerce site, everything is on white. You had to do that all by hand when we first started. So that's why they had so many interns that summer.
That makes
Then, you know what I'm saying? Then we had things like my friend Ricky. He does a lot of different things. He does poetry. He does design, da 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 da. So he had to leave to go do a poetry tour. They asked me to like fill in for styling for a shoot. Then they had me assist another photographer on an editorial. I don't remember if I had chosen the model, but I had known the model. So I ended up by chance directing because I had a relationship with that guy prior. And then, next thing I know, I'm able to do a shoot on my own. And so it's a back and forth between, because if I have a brand that I need to shoot something for, like an editorial or brand introduction, a lot of the times I used to just have sole control, like whatever I want to do. It's funny, I was actually looking at my tagged photos, and one of the photographers from back in the day, he like shot me, and it was on the feed, and I was like, damn, like we really got to just do whatever we wanted to back in the day. And so like now there's a little bit more communication between different departments on shoots, but still for the most part, and back then, like if I have a sole brand that I need to shoot something for, I can come up with the mood board, the concept, the talent, the location. Nowadays, I'll have to talk with people about the talent and the potential appropriateness, but I'll still do that on my own. If it's something that's in-house related, like private label or like a collaboration, that's where, we'll talk with the designer of the product, to figure out, all right, what was his idea? What was he trying to accomplish with the shoe? Okay, let's take that now as a photo team. How are we going to go about this? Because I have a direct partner who does a lot of the video nowadays.
Oh, cool.
And then, we'll figure that out from that. Maybe I'll still do the scouting. Maybe I'll do the outfit, the styling, as well as the designer might jump in. So when it's private label, there's a few more hands on board, and so there's more of a collaborative effect, as opposed to if it's just like one sole brand that we might be creating content for. That's like the really interesting part, because we carry a lot of brands, but we also have our own brand,
right?
That we try to you figure out the best way that you want to tell that story.
So you're definitely like a creative director as well as a photographer. You kind of
I would definitely say so. And I've been able to have a few nice freelance opportunities outside of work where I definitely was able to pull that together. And it's funny because we have to be really resourceful sometimes as far as like how we go about things and the time that we have. And I think that and also telling you what I was doing this stuff in school, I had to do a lot of things on my own. So I had a freelance gig, and, I helped scout models. I didn't do the locations, but then I came in the night before and I like restyled all the looks. And sometimes it's like, yo, relax, like I'm just here to shoot. But I think it really, for me, it speaks to my desire to get out of shooting and to get more into just directing and producing down the line. And being able to work with a team to bring a vision to life, not necessarily being the one that has to just do the shooting. I think ultimately that's where I want to go.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you mentioned at the beginning, and I feel like I kind of just skimmed over and pretended like you didn't say it, but you are also a DJ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
So how does being a DJ and a photographer overlap, if it does at all? And I don't know if I'm just like making assumptions about how you work due to some of the shoots I'm seeing and some of the photos I'm seeing, but it seems like you do photograph in kind of party atmospheres or spaces where you might be the DJ as well. Do you ever take on both roles in the same night type thing, or do you try to keep them separate completely?
Let's see. Oh my goodness, that was a loaded question.
I know, I'm sorry. I just had to get it all out.
What was the first one? Okay.
So how does being a DJ and a photographer overlap? If it does at all?
Yeah, so it's overlapped. It's funny, people still don't really know that I DJ. And I've DJ'd. I got into DJing like in high school, so like 2010.
I think you DJ'd at a party I was at The Good Life maybe a couple months ago. I feel like
yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. That was actually the first place I ever DJ'd a live set at.
Oh, nice.
It was through Eats Meets Beats, which
Mm.
is a subdivision of Eats Meets West bookstore out of Cambridge. I don't even know if they're still around.
I've never heard of
Um,
them,
I
so
hope
I don't
so. I
know.
found them through my friend Ricky that I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So and I would do a lot of just recording sets on my computer back in the day, like when I was in college. And I would take my photography and make that the cover art. So that was the initial overlap, was I was just making my own cover art, and I didn't really even need cover art, but it just made it feel more official to me. Like, oh, I
Mhm.
have this like 40-minute mix, and I have
Mhm.
this cover, and I'm gonna go into Photoshop, and I'm gonna do the title, and I'm gonna put the parental advisory in the bottom right corner. Swears in it, like. So that was the first overlap, was like making my own cover art, and I still do that now. Like, try to come up with different things. But the main time it overlapped was when actually Bodega had gone to Miami for Art Basel,
Mhm.
around the time of Art Basel, to do a pop-up store, and I was there and I was photographing the in-store event. But then also, one of my friends, he was in charge of programming out the music, and I talked to him and I was like, yo, like I want to just, like jump in, do a quick set while I'm already down there. And so I was able to DJ as well. But I never like DJ and photograph. Oh, unless it's honestly, unless it's like a bodega thing, I'll probably do both. But I usually
Got
tend
you
to like,
working over there, don't they?
man. Unless it's like, but if it's a regular thing, it's like I will never really shoot and photograph. That's kind of a lot. I
Yeah.
think that like I they kind of work hand in hand. That I might like someone I met through photography needs a DJ, or
Mhm.
someone who I've DJ'd or I know through DJing, they like need a photographer. So I think it plays off of each other with the way that the relationships that I have with people work.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think that that's something that I'm still trying to navigate, because obviously, yo, with this whole current situation,
Mhm.
it's there's a lot of people who have been affected. There's a lot of artists who are in like probably not the best situation, because a lot of their income was through like a lot of events, and
Mhm.
that's the way that a lot of people operate in today's wet day. And so I like, my heart goes out to people who have like potentially struggled. I know personally, like March was supposed to be a fun month, and I had 3 gigs that were canceled.
Yeah, I feel
And it's
you.
like I told myself I would DJ more this year. So 3 gigs in
Mhm.
1 month for me was like a step in the right direction, and they all got canceled.
Mhm.
And I'm fortunate enough that it's not necessarily like my main income. I don't always
Mhm.
do it for the money. So
Good.
I don't have to worry about that. But it was like, damn, like there's people who are affected by this. There's a lot of
Mhm.
artists who are affected by this in a lot of ways. And to an extent, myself included. And so that was really like eye opening to realize like the impact that this is having on everyone. um but yeah, so that's usually how they overlap, is
Mhm.
like through the relationships,
And the
through
networking and all that stuff.
networking,
Yeah.
cover art. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
So,
yeah, never both in the same night. That's crazy.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, I figured, but why not? Why not
No,
ask?
I feel that, I feel that, I feel that.
So thinking of like nostalgic times when we
Mm,
used to be able to travel around the country or even
mm,
go as far as your homeland of Ghana,
yeah.
how is shooting in different environments? Like, has it challenged you or taught you about photography when you are shooting in a space that is totally new to you?
Let's see. I think I approach shooting everywhere the same.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good to have a system.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everywhere is the same. I think the difference is how I operate in the space though. Um, I've been posting some photos from like 2018. That was a really fun year. That year I went to New Orleans for the first time. I went to Miami for one of the first times. I can't remember where else I went, but then I also went to Ghana. My cousin got married.
Mhm.
Um,
I saw those
that's
photos. She looked beautiful.
she's an angel. I have a lot of photos that I haven't posted from Ghana.
Mm.
But I had what was I gonna say? Yeah, sorry, I'm blanking.
No,
But
you shoot the same way in every space. That's what I'm
yeah, I
understanding.
shoot the same way in
Approach it.
every space. And like one day I want to show more of those photos, but
Mhm.
the difference was when I'm shooting in America or when I'm shooting anywhere like here, people shoot and people just look at that as whatever. It's like
Mm.
every photo is kind of with intent, and it might not look like that because everyone shoots. It's like people don't see me on the street shooting and think that like, oh, he's probably actually a photographer, or maybe
Mm.
they might see how I dress. I don't really know or care, but it's just normal for people to always be shooting. And when
Mm.
I shot in Africa, specifically Ghana, it was different because um if I'm shooting, it's more of like an element of standing out. Now it's like, okay, like who is this person? Like when I went to the Makola market, where a lot of the photos that I posted are from, when I would shoot, I would stand out.
Mhm.
And so I
It's
had to
like,
be
who is
really,
this foreign person taking photos, or
you know
why
what
is he
I'm saying?
documenting? And yeah, I get
So now, because at that market, everyone is selling, everyone is selling,
it.
every, like
Mm.
10 guys in front of you trying to sell you the same sneaker.
Mhm.
So if I take a shot, now it's like, oh, this person is here shooting this here's person with maybe they got some money.
Mhm.
Yo, yo, yo,
Yeah.
yo, yo. Now
Yeah,
I'm
we have
being
a camera.
harassed, like
Mhm.
harassed. And so I had to be really strategic of like how I wanted to shoot, when I wanted to shoot, because it was a place that I had been to twice. My family's from there, and I want to get to know more about. And obviously, like I talked to people there, and they're like, "Oh, like clearly the way you dress, like even your dreads, is like the way that they're done. You can tell you're not from here." So it's like I do
Mhm.
stand out, even though I am Ghanaian. That's the one thing that I learned the first time I was there is being Ghanaian by blood is different from being Ghanaian like living there.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Mhm.
But yeah, I had to be strategic of when I wanted to shoot and where I wanted to shoot because of how I was going to be perceived. And even though it's a lot better being there and you don't feel that those like racial pressures, there are to an extent like different kinds of class pressures or
Oh,
just
yeah.
like things of that nature. And so yeah, I had to do it in a way that I could feel like I could still try to blend into an extent, even though it's very different. But yeah, other than that, I always shoot everywhere with the same eye and just like the same attention to um, whether it's detail or color. I really love color, and so that's like my main focus. And yeah, I just if the shot's not there, I don't take it because I started out with shooting on film.
Oh,
I went
okay.
to digital.
So you know that every shot is worth something when you start with film, at least.
Yeah. And I had a
Mhm.
$15 camera from the Goodwill and $10 film from Walgreens. Like it was
Mhm.
very like low cost, but it still costs. And it was like I have
Mhm. Yeah,
24
film is
shots and that's
expensive.
it. So that's when I loved like getting a digital camera, but then going to the phone because I could open up more and like digital camera helped me get my practice in and my reps in.
Mhm.
And shooting on my phone it brought me back to my film days because even though I had unlimited shots to an extent, I had one aperture. I
Mm.
wasn't on a zoom, I was on a fixed lens, so I had to work within those confines. And so
Mm.
like going back to film, it's like I love it because I can shoot and I can have the photo be what it is, and that's it. And I can't look at it, and no, I can't show you what it looks like because
Mhm.
it's gonna take me another 2.5 weeks to get it. But I love the feeling of it. I love how the film looks. I love how
Mm.
permanent it is and how I can't go back and change it. And so being able to stop that and like get better and develop an eye and then come back, it made it so much better. And I was like actually about to buy a new camera before all this happened that now I have to wait on. But my next venture is to get into medium format.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for speaking with me and taking some time out of your day. And
Thank
I'm glad we
you.
were able to make this interview work somehow.
I know. We have been talking about it for a minute now.
I know. And it was just like then the world crumbled and we couldn't use it. But I'm glad Zoom allowed us this to happen. One last question.
Yeah.
What's next for you and your work? Oh, and a second question. Where can the people find your work?
Okay, so 2 questions. Question 1, what's next for me and my work? What's next is more personal projects. What's next is more photos being put out there. I really stopped posting, but I think I, to an extent, am ready to share again. So more sharing. Potentially photo books are coming.
Ooh, cool.
And at this point, like, I don't even know when it's gonna start again. I need to put these paintbrushes down. Like shows, more shows. That's actually the reason why I stopped posting, because I really loved having a show. And just having that relationship through the work. So that's for the future, is more print and more tangible photo experiences. Awesome. People can find my work currently on Instagram at Tyler Kpakpo, TYLERKPAKPO, and also that same name on SoundCloud is one of my pages where I post mixes. And yeah, I'll be putting out more mixes this year. I definitely put a lot of that on pause, especially with everything that was going on, just where I was at personally. But in the near future, more music will be coming out, and I'm also learning how to like make beats. So yeah, I'm dropping a few beats soon, you know. Today hitting on that Bandcamp.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, that's just more music, more photos, more experiences, more things that people can like engage with coming in the future. Yeah.
Cool. And maybe at your next photo show, you'll be DJing as well.
Yeah, my first photo show, I like put on all of my mixes, and people were like, "What? That was nice," because people didn't even know I was DJing back then. So that was like the first time people were like, "Oh,
this is what you do too." Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you for this.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.